Hi, everybody. My name is Kaya Wirtz, and I'm the speech therapist at Gerald Ford. And today we're going to be talking about how to work on K and G sounds. So, if your child has a goal for working on those K or G sounds, the hierarchy that we use is, of course, you're going to start with trying to produce that sound at the independence level. So, just doing that sound in isolation, K or G. And then the next step after that would be in words, and then in phrases, and then in sentences, and then in conversation, and so on. But for the most part, your kids are going to be working on that sound either in isolation or in sentences. So I'm going to go over some tips for working on those sounds with your kids at home. And then you can apply those with some words worksheets that I'll also share with you and hopefully get some good stuff done at home. So you'll start with asking your child to just imitate you producing the sound. So say, k, k, k. And then if they can do it, then that's great. And then you move on from that into doing the word level. But if they can't do it, let's go over some tips for how we work towards that. So the first thing that you're going to do, if you've asked your child to imitate the sound and they're not able to do it, is to tell them to open their mouth really wide. And then you're going to ask them to imitate the sound. And you're going to let them see your tongue moving to the back of your mouth. So you can kind of see how it's moving and that it's the back of my tongue that's coming up to the back of my mouth in order to produce that sound. And the same thing for G. The difference between the K and G sounds being that when you produce the g, g, g sound, your vocal cords are working. So the way that we explain it to kids is saying that you're turning your voice box on. So if you have them put their finger right here on their throat, the difference between a voiceless sound, you're not going to feel any vibration there, and a voiced sound, you will. So the K being the voiceless version and G being the voiced. But it's the same movement and the same positioning for both of those sounds. So if you're doing that and they're not getting that cue to move it to the back, you can use visual cues. And the one that I use during therapy with your kids is just putting your finger right here on the bottom on the bottom of your throat is a visual cue for them to move their tongue to the back. So you're going to say, remember, you have to push your tongue all the way to the back of your mouth. And I do sometimes a little hand motion like this too. So this is your tongue coming up and back. But tell them k, 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 or g, g, g. And that's their the visual cue that they have to remind them that they need to move their tongue back in order to produce that sound. If you've tried that and those things still aren't working, then the next thing that you can do is help them to keep the tip of their tongue down. So that's going to force the back of the tongue to do the work, because what happens is that if the tip of their tongue is working, that's when we get the t, t and d, d noises. So that's the tip of your tongue doing the work at the front of your mouth. And we want to take that tip of the tongue out of the equation so that the back of the tongue is doing the work. So the way that you do that is to just encourage them to hold the tip of their tongue down inside their mouth and try to make the sound. And it might sound kind of funny, and that's okay. It's helping them to work towards that sound. So, I mean, you don't want to be sticking your tongue inside or your finger into your child's mouth. So what you can do is have them hold it down, or if that's still not working and they really need your assistance to help with that, you can always use something fun like a lollipop. So just hold the lollipop down on the tip of their tongue right there, just gently, and encourage them to use the back of their tongue in order to make that sound. So those are some tips for you for getting your child to work on that sound in isolation. If your child if you're at that first step and you ask your child to imitate the sound and they are able to do it, then you're going to start working on the word level. So words you're going to get will be things like cat or car. And the difference between these two, I think it's important to note, is the level of difficulty, because a word like cat starts with our K sound but ends with a T. So if your child is already having trouble distinguishing between the T sounds and the K sounds, it's going to encourage them to do what we call assimilation, and it's going to come out like tat. So you want to start with, it's easier to start with words that just have that sound and don't have a T or a D in it if they're already inclined to produce T or D, because it's really difficult to move back and forth while they're still trying to nail down that skill. But if you do decide to work on that little bit higher level of difficulty and the child says tat, then you can break it down sound by sound. So have them say k, t, just like you do when you're kind of starting to learn how to read. And that will help them to break those sounds up and not assimilate that T sound to the beginning of the word. So hopefully you guys find these interesting and helpful for you to work on. And of course, let me know if you have any questions or need more materials or more tips. Whatever the case is, I am happy to help, and I hope you're all having a great week. Thank you.